You're good. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Rather than the chambers today, we're in a smaller room that's being in use. Health and safety for this room. Out the door to your right and out the front entrance, or out to the left and out the side entrance. Meeting either in the front or the car park. No apologies. Any conflict of interest in the papers?
Nothing in the papers, but I'll make people aware of now an independent on Wanganui District Council.
Okay. We've got a recording device. Do we need them to you? Do you have any announced urgent business? Can I confirm that everybody has received the extra items that were emailed out yesterday? We have a hard copy here today. Thank you. Right, and I know that we have the auditors Jenna and Chantal coming in at 2, so we'll try and get through as much as we can, and before they are here, and we have a hard finish time of 3:45. You're celebrating.
I'll hold it to that.
Well, just remember, it's not only me that takes the time.
Yeah.
Rightio. Then we'll go over. We'll go over the minutes from last time. Those minutes of accuracy on page 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Someone happy to move that they're accurate record? Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Tom. All in favour? All right. Got name tags on people, you know what I'm like. Any matters arising that aren't dealt with in further papers? On page 7. On page 8. 9. 10. Robbie, sorry.
Just a comment,
What page?
bottom of page 9, the very last point, that it was great to see that what was thought to be a challenge ended up being completely the other way with the amount of applications and good applications.
Yeah. Also, you're going to have to squeak because I can't see everybody all the time. So,
Lean back.
no, you're right.
Well, that's what you were saying.
I'm saying that at all. If I was, I would say it. Right. If the PE, if there's anything in there, we can keep them.
Well, we could do that in
In PE,
Yeah.
that's right, okay. Rightio. Done all that, right here. Here we go. We're clean, just in time.
Rightio, so with on page 12, just the various things that we will look at various stages during the year. I've got the 11th of August highlighted red. I think there is a clash. Graham?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm already booked to be in the far north at that stage at the Audit and Risk Committee. I believe it was far north. As I chair that one, I'd kind of like to be there.
Fine, probably useful.
And we've got a sort of a question mark on the December meeting as well. I don't think it was specifically allowed for, but will be quite a while from October to February for not having a meeting. So and there will be there will always be things to discuss.
At that particular date, I also have a clash with another council.
So can I check then if you're saying the 11th, are you looking at changing the date, not having it, or?
Possibly changing the date to suit Graham's
Yeah.
availability, either in person or online. Again, for the same reasons that if we don't have a meeting, it is a fair way away until
Previous week's completely free, if that's of use.
Previous week, what's that, sorry? Previous week's completely
It's
free.
it's in my diary, but I'll just work with Michelle.
I suppose, I'd say, don't like, missing meetings or cancelling meetings. The 14th of April is only, a little over 3 weeks away. And I am quite aware that I need another session with full council to go through budgets again, and just seeing the feeling whether we don't have a meeting and hold off until June, or have a wee bit of a shorter meeting, and then have a bit more time to deal with the budget at that point.
So for clarification, are you looking at potentially dropping that 14th altogether, or just making it another date?
Not making it another date, potentially dropping it, just on the basis that there is, it's very close again, and but there will be things that we possibly will need to, some items we'll need to deal with, but it could be a shorter meeting to allow a bit more time to do the budgets.
Oh, okay, I'm with you. Yep.
And and it could be one, just
I guess I mean, I'm kind of in favour of holding it as a placeholder
Yes.
and have a quarter meeting.
Mhm.
But the budget workshop for all councillors is quite critical as well. So I think that
Yeah.
that's, probably of high value from a timing perspective as well. So I think we should keep that day and utilise it as best an agenda item might be. Even if it's a smaller agenda, we're better off to do it than wait for it till June. That's a long time, isn't it, really? And utilise the rest of that day for a budget workshop.
yeah, I think I was just
Yeah,
reflecting.
yeah,
The limited amount of time
yeah.
I had on Tuesday to do. When Curtis said it doesn't like death by PowerPoint, I revel in that, unfortunately. So there was a lot to go through.
I think we should be there. Yep, hold it.
We don't need to move, that's just good. Happy with that? That date?
But I suppose the purpose of this is for some unifying the tasks that we do need to address at each meeting, and whether there is anything, any dots that I've missed, or anything that we need to add. Do point out number 5 down there, the internal audit, and it was discussed by Curtis earlier on, that we don't have an internal audit plan, we don't have an internal audit function per se, and part of getting completely on top of our risk management processes is to develop that and have some form of independent reporting coming back to this committee on a regular basis. So it is currently blank, but it's not, it's blank because we just don't have a plan in place.
But I see there you've got it, that it's going to happen once we have an internal plan developed, so.
And that is ultimately where we hopefully we'll get to with the further work done by Curtis.
Does anybody have any questions on the work plan?
I guess the only thing, looking at the April meeting, if we look at number 6, we would be scheduled to meet with the auditors on that day. Is that part of the routine audit process? Can that be shifted, or is that?
Yeah, that possibly will be shifted.
Right.
They have expressed a desire to attend most audit and risk committee meetings if they can. But again, that we can certainly play that one by ear. If there is there are things that they want to raise, we'll get them. But something we can discuss as a committee with Tina and Chantel. And that's probably just that dot should have been pulled forward to the 19th of March.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Right.
Right. Alrighty,
Okay, if we go to page, zero, we're going to do that then, Nolan.
Yeah, 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 correct. Issued. Finalised report to governance or report to management on last year's audit, and it's probably appropriate to talk. Chantal will be in the meeting specifically to discuss that component.
Okay.
Tina, as our new audit director, will be what's forthcoming. And I suppose the next item, yeah, doesn't necessarily need the auditors involved. Although within the report to management, there were 4 new recommendations that they've raised, and they're on the bottom of page 17. You will see that there is a lot of red there are things that have moved. Some of those items subsequent to the annual report have been closed, and then I thought it was just pertinent on page 18 and 19 to actually have a clean sheet with all the closed ones removed, so we know this is largely from here on. So yeah, page 18 and 19 is the true view on things. You know, it's relatively contracted from where it has been for a while. It just represents that some of those issues that they've raised in the past were relating to annual report stuff that we've tried to resolve. But there's still some lingering issues that we need to put out. But the 4 new ones, I see it's number 64 on the bottom of page 18. On termination processes are relating to when an employee leaves, and they identified that there was one person that finished up but was doing some casual hairs later, and then but hadn't been employed for quite some time. So it does just need to make sure we've got that full termination process and actually bring them on if they're going to come back as casuals with a different contract in that respect. They have raised a few issues around the sensitive expenditure policy, and again, it is on me to make sure that the policy is reiterated where our leadership team, these are the limits, these are the rules, and making sure that everything is complied with. A few things around gearing processes for the thermal pools, and basically have one the auditor had one invoice that had come in later in August that should have been accrued back to June. We do try and make sure that we have quite a strict process around the cutoff, making sure that anything that relates to the financial year is accounted for, and we do implore our suppliers to make sure they get invoices to us as quickly as possible, not only to make sure that they're processed to be paid. It's a pretty good incentive for the suppliers, but also that we know that is all the stuff relating to the previous year and whether to record it appropriately.
We'll operate a purchase order system whereby when the goods or services delivered, it's noted so that you can get an estimate of those that aren't invoiced.
Yes.
So they change the status.
Yep, we do that. That is in council's ERP system. This was up at the polls. It wasn't it's not as
Robust.
Robust is that, so that's the ideal word. So it's just a matter of just working with Justine and Pauls to make sure that we've got that in place. And the last one was just some processes around capitalisation of plant, property, and equipment. And I'm sure I hope that if I didn't highlight it, I meant to highlight it with the annual report. Last year, we had significant amount of assets, particularly water assets, that were still described as work in progress. So they hadn't gotten to work had been done. They hadn't been fully commissioned, or they may have been fully commissioned, but we hadn't. They hadn't been recognised in our asset management database for us to, completely capitalise them. So, and part of that was purely resourcing around getting that information into the database. So we've been assured that all the relevant work that has been completed is in the system in that database now. But it forms part of a fixed asset project that we're just recruiting a fixed term position to assist us with, and that flows through to a few of the other recommendations from the auditors. We've had the long-standing issue of the mismatch between what was in our general ledger and what was in our annual report for fixed assets, which we're hoping will get resolved through this process, as well as knowing that we've got the revaluation process for both land and buildings coming up, but also 3 waters for a different purpose. So we're hoping through that, making sure that we try and minimise the amount of work in progress or projects that are only partway through before for the water and sewer assets before they're transferred to the WISCO.
So it's quite good to reduce the size of the list, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's been a bit of work going to get that done, and there's always some more challenges coming up.
Yes, certainly haven't answered any specific queries from either of the schedules.
No, I'm going to, so from here on in, we won't see the copy with the red ink on it. We'll only see the updated one on 18 and 19.
Yeah, 18 and 19, and
Yeah.
then from
Whatever
there
they
on,
add to
if
it.
there's any movements,
Yeah,
we'll report that.
yeah, okay,
It was just the fact that there was a number of them that the auditors
yeah,
have deemed to close.
yeah.
Closed. So they're not as much of an issue.
Makes good sense.
I'm happy to move that. The fourth accepted is seconded. Oh, it's not go. All in favour? Thank you. We'll go on as one next.
Yeah, well, the next thing on the list is the audit engagement letter and the audit plan, which the discussion with Chantel and Dina. Then we move into the risk items. So the next one is on page 63, being the quarterly treasury report from Bangkok.
Everybody here?
Yep.
Excellent.
This is the report back in December. So things have moved, a little bit since then. So it's more form rather than substance in including this report in this agenda. And I suppose page the key from an audit risk point of view is that we are complying with all the limits within our treasury risk management policy, but think partway down page 63 and 67, it's, and this is pointed out and highlighted to council every at the end of each month. The all up weighted average cost of funds, including margin, at the end of December was 3.92%. Now, I would suspect that with the goings on in the Middle East pushing inflation, pushing the underlying interest rates up, that number will increase by the end of March. Yes, and that will just reflect the fact that we've got 45% of our total debt floating, so we are exposed to the movements in the short-term interest rates, and yeah, the short-term interest rates start to increase. A chunk of the chunk of the cost of our debt will increase as well.
So do you expect that 45 and that floating rate to increase, to get bigger?
No, I'm
What are we-
expecting the second last line there, they're all up weighted.
Oh, 3.12.
Increase from 3.12.
Okay,
There
Sorry.
hasn't been a market change that I've observed, but an example was every 3 months our interest rate swaps, which are listed on page 69, gets repriced, at various and some of them just were repriced. One of them was there's one there that was repricing in one of them. One of them was repricing in March, and the interest rates that we were set in December compared to March, the difference was about 5 basis points. It doesn't sound a lot, but it was just showing a trend upwards from where we were 3 months ago.
Through the chair. So with the current sort of volatility in the markets as it stands at the moment then, and the fact that our weighted average cost of funds, including margin, is likely to increase potentially not insubstantially, when these other instruments on page 68 come up on the 15th of April, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, are we looking, or are we able to put those on fix? Would we be looking to do that? Would we be looking to try and put in some sort of measure to say this global issue could go on for some time? And would it be something that we'll be thinking about?
Something we're thinking about, but the advice we got from our advisors was to exactly that we had $14 million worth of debt that is due to mature in April.
Yep.
And the advice was to get it repriced in $7 million chunks, but on floating rate. Still use the interest rate swaps to create that fixed component of it. So that's what we've done, and so in that component we will be exposed, but in the background we'll use the interest rate swaps to try and create that fixed component relating to the interest rates.
Thank you.
Brad?
Besides specifically noting the compliance on pages 66 and 67, I think it's important for the committee. Normally, when you are thinking that, or the advice is that interest rates regime could be increasing, you tend, looking at the graph on page 67, top left, you tend to migrate slightly more towards the middle, is the traditional thinking as far as your hedging profile. Whether we've got enough at the moment to say that, yeah, well, it's probably going to go, And then if you're really knowing that they're going to be going up, is increase your hedging. It's the traditional approach. So if you think interest rates are going to be going up and your advice is that, then you tend to move slightly towards the top of the, bearing in mind you shouldn't be really right on the margins unless there's good reasons. And we're at the moment probably a wee bit south of halfway. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting advice to put a little more hedging in place. But we do need to bear in mind our Wisco
Yeah.
as well, which is the complicating factor at the moment.
That's the issue that we are facing. When the Wisco gets ceded to the local government funding agency, the intention is on the 1st of July that the $80-odd million of debt, however it's structured, will be just novated to the Wisco, so they take responsibility at that point. And but also coupled with that is needing to assign a portion of the interest rate swaps to the Wisco as well, because when we are losing sort of 80% of our debt, we'll need to lose at least 80% of their hedging attached to that. So these processes we're going through with ANZ and BNZ, who are the banks that we deal with their hedging, to make sure that can be achieved as well. And it's not quite as simple as just saying purely 80% of every interest, every loan that we've got transfers to the Wisco, because then we're left with they only LGFA only really want to deal in $1 million. They don't want anything less than $1 million. So we've got a couple of swaps there that are a couple of term loans. Sort of in tranches that don't quite match. Is that putting in and leaving 20% left?
Through you, share a supplementary. So we may see some volatility in our policy compliance coming from the Wisco, which was where I was leading. You've quite nicely gone into that. It won't be neat and tidy. And we're going to sort of probably push out some of our compliance margins a little because of the rearrangement until we can rebid it back in. Just simply because it's not linear. You can't take 80%. You've got to pick particular instruments to move.
And
no value.
Sorry, it's not quite as easy as saying so most expensive ones. There you go. As well.
But we won't be the only people with that.
No, it's something I'm seeing around all the councils. So just highlighting that you may see some volatility and some risk coming out of this process that we can't avoid because of the contractual terms.
Being aware of it is one of the key things.
Yeah, at least then you can take some actions to mitigate. But don't expect a perfect answer.
No.
Go, Tom.
Very quick one, two very quick ones. On page 66, the composition of counterparties. And Westpac are absolutely a minute proportion of that dial there in the bottom left-hand corner. I thought that Westpac and the other banks were much bigger proportions of that before.
For us, it's a tiny amount. We have now thinking, do we have
A little bit of overdraft facility.
we've got a facility with Westpac of $10 million, but it is just a facility, and we do dip into it very occasionally when don't quite have enough money to pay creditors. But yeah, by far the biggest component is with the LGFA, and that is it is the cheapest option, because if you look down page 68, the margins there. So that is where we've got a floating rate note. We pay underlying bank bill rate plus the margin. Now with Westpac, it's the same if we do utilise their facility, we pay the underlying bank bill rate plus a margin of 125 basis points rather than the 79, 78, 84% that 84 basis points that the LGFA are providing. So we always try and utilise the LGFA as much as possible.
Just a very quick supplementary. Why did the LGFA call it yield, but rate or?
Tomato, tomato. Thanks.
I just wanted to circle back to the point that Graham made about, you know, in times of volatility, do we retreat more to more fixed within the bounds of our policy? Because I think that's something that you need to actively keep your eye on. So if interest rates are being driven up, do we want to fix more, and for how long do we want to fix it? That's a really important point, and it takes active decision making. You get there; it doesn't happen by magic, you know. So yes, we rely on Bancorp to advise us on these things, but you're the decision makers, and you know, you need to be, I guess, at least giving Jason steer as to which direction we're heading in. And I know that in a couple of accounts ago, we actively drove down to the lower end of the band because interest rates were you know, heading in the direction. Of course, when interest rates turn the other way, you get out and climb the ladder again. So the swings and roundabouts effect, it's a lead and lag effect, really. But I just think, and I'm thinking about for Jason's safety when he's making these decisions, some clear direction from this committee would help him when he's dealing with these matters.
I think it's quite
The bottom line question is really, do you have appetite to fix more, knowing that when interest rates do eventually drop again, that you're stuck with those higher rates potentially, or do you have an appetite to remain where you are and see? I mean, because you know, who knows, the Iran war could be over tomorrow and oil flying again, and all of a sudden the inflationary pressure's off. So it does require a little bit of direction for Jay so that he can confidently, you know, work with Bancorp to make those decisions.
I think there's for a council though, because we put it in our charges, you know, for the debt, we build it into, so that like our local committees and that with debt, they know they want certainty of, you know, because they do their budget and they have their amenity rate a certain amount. And to have that mucked up because it's been floating, and then the next thing we've got a higher interest bill, which has got to be found from somewhere, which is just easier for budgeting. Quite a bit of it is at a fixed term. I think the Australian Reserve Bank, did they put the rate up the other day?
Yes.
You know, you've got to look at out external what other countries are doing a bit too.
That's why I covered the point off with the WISCO, that this may not be quite such a straightforward question right now. And I think after that, we need to rebuild into a profile, simply because we will be taking specific instruments across to the WISCO to, as part of the allocation. We can't just neatly chop it 80-20 or whatever the number is. So probably at the moment, I would think that we want to carry on with a relatively steady ship, but been keeping an eye on the horizon over after we sort the WISCO out and where that sits and where we want to consciously be in the band, whether it's towards the bottom, middle, or upper. Now, the safe option is always to head to the middle. That's what I tried to do on a golf course anyway. I failed miserably. So that would be sort of the normal traditional safe area, is heading towards the middle. But if you're getting distinct steers, that interest rates and looking at the yield curves going out to the 3, 5 and 10 year, periods, if they're sort of tracking downwards, well, that's probably the best indicator that we can get as to where it's going, thinking about it. But my view at the moment, let's sort the Wisco out so we've got a better idea where we're sitting. And as Hamish said, if we all knew what was going to happen in the future, we wouldn't be sitting here because we'd have Saturday night's lotto numbers locked in,
Or even Wednesday.
or even Wednesdays.
So do you think that that's given Jason much of a steer? Because what's the time frame for having the Wisco potentially sorted?
Well, we're
July.
actively working on it as we go, but it's going to be July, that timeframe where that component of the debt moves sideways, it doesn't disappear, unfortunately, it moves sideways. And then for council, we've got shown only 25 to 20 to 29 million debt for the next financial year, which is a completely different position to be in when you're at 115 million. So
Absolutely. I just realised that some parts of the Wisco are going to take over, a longer period of time.
Yep.
So if we were giving, but if the financial side of it is all being sorted, then not straightforwardly, but to say if we get that done, then it's quite a volatile time, isn't it?
yeah, that is certainly the intention. But it does require the Wisco to be a member of the LTFA, and there are some, and that is a decision of the board of the LTFA, and there are some requirements that they or some assurances they need from ultimately the directors of the company as well before that will happen. So there could be a wee bit of a tail
And
to this.
the LGFA needs to sort out its own process.
Yeah.
And that is holding up a couple of Wiscos at the moment. So,
So it could be that some of those blocks of funding that we've got may be in our name, but effectively on lent. So then we've got the additional risk of who should be making the treasury decisions on those particular blocks of debt, if they're really in all but name the Wiscos. So what guidance? So we could have a split policy as a result of that.
And I suppose that process was considered with the previous Three Waters reforms, that when the transition was to happen, council would retain that debt for a period of 5 years, and the new entities would gradually repay council for that. So, yeah, we're probably potentially in that same boat moving forward, but with the benefit that the LGFA are going to be on both sides, whereas they weren't part of the discussions with the previous reforms.
I just, we were talking about having that guidance on when you might sort of change them. It's a bit untidy, really, isn't it? Because we don't know exactly when, who's taking what, and the time frame in that, and that bump could leave us open to some much higher rates, couldn't it?
Well, I don't know about much higher. The good thing about it is that only about, was it 20 odd million of it is ours after that, which instantly drops our sensitivity in terms of our accounts.
Excellent. I just wanted to understand.
I know I've said to council and try and get Miles from Bancorp in to do a workshop. I'm just thinking, even if try and make it for the 14th, it may be useful to have David Walker from Bancorp, who is advising the Wisco, advising us on the Wisco treasury as well. And David's presented to us as a council. Trying to tie that in so we can have that combined with the audit and risk and then straight into the budget workshop.
Barry?
Can I just think this has been quite a valuable discussion for someone who's not really in my wheelhouse, but I think it's quite helpful in my mind to help us understand what is going to be shifted, but just taking the points that we've heard, if we look at July 1 and the months building up to that, things are going to be different in the world. You know, we're going to, those factors might either be maximised or minimised depending what's happening. So that will give us some guidance as to how we manage the risk profile of the finances, as well as the big shift to the Wisco and us as council. So it's probably useful discussion, but something we'll just prep ourselves into on those internal and external factors. Just a thought.
Jason, they would have built in these risks already. I think we're behind the line ball at any rate. You know, if we went back and said what rates we'd get. They'll be different to that.
Yeah, that's in terms of the limits, how much we, not so much how much we borrow, but with the treasury risk, these two key risks. One is funding risk, with making sure we don't have all of our debt getting repriced, maturing and having to reprice in one point. And the other one is around the interest rates and just spreading the load, but primarily creating a level of consistency for council in that respect, because we can go all floating. And it's exactly what Curtis was talking about earlier about the tolerance. If we are, Hamish is quite a gambling man, and I'm not a gambling man, so I would be more aiming for a consistent approach. But there is a cost in doing that.
Yeah.
Or you could chase chase the floating and win in sometimes and lose in others.
Yeah.
But the risk appetite.
Yeah.
Will probably allow us to take a more. I don't like to use the word gambling, but
Flexible.
because of the smaller total numbers involved. But we have a look on page 65 at the changes since September to December. And we're looking at 2, 3, 5, 10 year. They're all up around 0.3 to 0.4%.
Yeah.
Hopefully she's getting the vodka.
Yes. I think about it as active management of your interest rate and passive management of your interest rate. So you either take a lock and leave approach and hope that you achieve damage to the market, or you try and actively manage it and potentially do or worse than the market.
The rates mightn't alter much while there's uncertainty. It's usually afterwards the reserve steps back, comes into control inflation. So it usually happens later on, not right when it's happening.
We have seen 2 banks increase their mortgage rates so far. So.
Bearing in mind that LGFA sources most of its money on the London market. So actually that's the market we've probably got to have an eye on, rather than what the RBNZ's doing here.
I don't know if we gave any guidance there at all.
No, I think that was a steer there.
Okay.
It's just like make hay slowly.
Excellent. Any other questions on that?
Through the chair, just so would this be well worth sort of circling back to after the 1st of July, once we've seen how things are settling out in Wisco, then we might well, as a governance group, be able to give you a bit more of a steer as to how we would like to speculate, whether it's in Jason's way or in Hamish's way, and what would be the best way to go. I think it would be really worth looking at. We're going to have another four months potentially of conflict around the world. We'll start to see those inflationary pressures come on by then, I would imagine, and we will have a better idea then as to how we can play with what we've got.
If we want to play.
If we want to play.
And as we move forward, we have developed, still in the throes of developing a treasury risk management policy for the Wisco, and at this stage just leaving the council one, but the limits we will need to change, or we can change, and it would makes sense to change because it's going to be a completely different environment for the rest of the council after Three Waters goes. Yeah, just purely in terms of the cap, the debt cap, 175% of their total income, and where numbers I showed the other day were looking at about 54%. It's a different ballgame.
Just I'm mindful that we've got it coming up. Anything else on there, or does somebody want to move that the
Happy
information?
to speed that process.
Thank you. Seconded by.
Steve.
Pick one. They've got a name badge today.
Yeah, Graham.
All in favour.
Oh,
Might get taken away on me.
yeah.
So everybody's in favour of that, yes, rightio. What's next? Steve?
Right, page 72 is
Yep.
the yes, correspondence and it's purely that as correspondence. I've just attached the covering letter received on the half yearly report. Got some comments there, and then the covering letter on the draft statement of intent. Now we received this, but we're not shareholders. But we received it because we are guarantors, and really these are linked to the actual reports if you want to deep dive a bit further. But I just noted, I checked the other day, the statement of intent has got a photo of Emily Beach front page. So just and that's just reflecting the green social and sustainability aspect. We're part of.
Robbie, you've got a question?
Yeah, being new to the table, I picked up on page 75. Talking about for our shareholders and for our guarantors. Who are the shareholders and who are the guarantors? I'm not quite sure. How one word.
Yeah, these a group of councils that were shareholders. We haven't been a shareholder. We came to the party a little bit late, but we are a guarantor. And now the guarantor or a guaranteeing council, if you've got more than $20 million of debt with the LGFA, you need to be a guarantor. Or if you, in the case of Kaikoura being part of a WISCO, that will be funding from receiving funding from the LGFA, they need to be a guarantor as well. And what that provides, if there is a, way I understand it, if a council reneges or on any of the obligations to the LGFA, that the councils, the rest of the councils need to contribute to fund that gap. They do that for the fact that we've got every $1 million of debt that we pull down, the LGFA holds on to $50,000 of borrower notes, so they utilise that. So but that is just a stopgap because each council needs to have a debenture trust deed attached to any of its debt, which means if the council was to default, the trustee, we've got covenant trustees, that trustees can come over top and set a rate, legally set a rate to recover that debt. So it's more around timing, but it does provide, a very, very high level of certainty to the investors that invest in the LGFA, because it is very, very risk free.
Yeah, I presume shareholders, there's a dividend coming out for all of those.
Yeah, and then like most investors, they did invest, provide capital initially to the, as well as the government put in $5 million in setting up the LGFA way back in the very early 2000s. And so there is a return for them in that respect.
So Kaikoura will be a guarantor as well.
They are now. Yeah, they weren't up until just before Christmas. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Then I'm happy to move that the information be received. I have a seconder and. All in favour? Thank you.
Can I maybe jump over to Claire,
Page 80?
page 80,
Yep.
the risks on the local and unwell.
Yep. It's all done. Got 10 minutes before the.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, you will have received the paper. There are no major changes in the actual risks or risk ratings. However, there have been a large number of steps taken in the interim. There is one additional risk that wasn't there before, and that's risk number 10 on the schedule, which is risk for Wisco following transfer date relating to pre-transfer breaches. So I was asked to include this. It relates to things that are not currently okay, which presumably won't be immediately okay as soon as the Wisco is in existence. So that's an example of that is the Kaikoura wastewater abatement notice and the Balmoral water supply issues. Those sorts of things don't suddenly vanish when you've got a different entity, they still exist. And there are risks associated with the fact that these things still exist, potentially risks for the council as well as for the Wisco. And we just note that's the case. It's not actually a project risk, it's an existing risk that's on the other risk register, but I'm just highlighting it for your reference. The biggest risks continue to be the stranded overhead matter, which is going to be dealt with in due course, but it's not going to be dealt with in the immediate future. Access to LGA funding, making sure that we can finalise that within time. And we're expecting some issues about public perception, particularly relating to the anticipated and planned rate increases and water charge increases. So they continue to be the key risks. Work is ongoing about identification of properties and the impact of different properties which are used for three water purposes, and that will continue until such time as we work it through enough to share it with folks. The valuation for the end of June has been organised, and we've even got funding for it from the DIA, which is even better. You'll see there the expenditure to date is just over 300,000. We've now got more commitments since then, including the valuation. Some work on data accuracy in Kaikoura. They've got somebody coming in to improve the accuracy of the asset management data, a fairly major piece of work, which is expected to cost about $70,000, and DIA is funding that as well. And there's work, the sole directors, which has been going out for advertising, are also going to result in an increase in the line related to directors. So that's what's up these days. I note that this is only for the project. Once the project's actually going, once the organisation exists, it will have its own risk register. Yes.
Any questions? It's a comprehensive list, isn't it? No? So you must have had a really, you can put it all together in at least to understand way then. Somebody have the move, the information be accepted. Thank you, Mary. Seconded Tom. All in favour? Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we could go back to page 77.
Before we go too far on that one, Madam Chair, I wonder whether this should have been in PX, because there's identifying information in there which could be personal, namely addresses and that sort of thing, and levels of mortgages in the paper and through the paper.
Page 77.
Yeah, there's addresses and mortgages, which is personal information to those that are involved.
Oh.
wonder if we should,
Community trust.
I'm not sure. We have,
page 78 and particularly items, line 7 and 8. No, 7 particularly.
I suppose that is the trust retained. That's.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable point, and it is identifiable, so I think that we should in future make sure that these do go into public excluded. I think it's difficult, but that we could then release a redacted version as a release immediately afterwards, and that way that will allow the transparency for the community to see that the $415,000 loan is still in good hands, but we just redact out the addresses or not put them in the report.
Yeah.
Or have it all in a schedule that can be not released.
I guess through the chair, I guess through the reality of the people that, like I'm thinking about the community of Waiau that understands these properties and understands the trusts. You know, they know the addresses of those properties anyway. You know, so it's not completely, yeah, it's not a, yeah, thank you. It's not a hidden project as far as the addresses, they're the addresses, aren't they? I suppose it's the money and some money.
Outside that community,
Yeah,
then gain an understanding of the equity position of those properties.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what sort of purpose they can use that for, but I think it's a good point that Graham raised.
Yeah.
To be fair to the property owners,
Mm.
and we should include them in a public report going forward.
It's already out there now.
I know, and we've done it in the past, so.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether the
Learn from
trust.
mistakes, Graham.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Well, I saw it previously and never thought of it, so.
I mean, I've just reflected what was disclosed in their financial reports, and I wonder as a trust whether they have lodged them in, you know, the company's office or the charities commission with the same information. And then it's actually out in the public regardless, but it's a good point. I can just be mindful of that next time.
Okay, and as for the report itself,
Yeah, I was, and I think when we reviewed this last time, there was a query about whether we required a full audit, and I discussed it with the trustees, and they have opted for a review. And reviewers report and see on page 79. It's probably not completely in the format that we would expect to be from from my point of view, a chartered accountant, view, but there is a wee bit of an independent check of the information in the report.
And will that satisfy the curiosity of the auditors?
From the auditor's point of view, our auditors, they are interested in how we value the loan.
Right.
So if there was something in the financial report that suggested that our loan wasn't secure, that would be an issue. At this stage, what we simply record the loan as is the net present value of the 415,000 at the time that was in 12 years.
Yeah.
So I think in our actual financial reports we've got a balance of about 250,000 recorded, just to take into account the if it was stopped today because the loan is an interest-free loan. I think that's primarily for our purposes to make sure that we're comfortable with the information from the trustees.
I just note we've got the visitors, so I think if you've got some more questions, we could probably nip through those, but I'm just conscious of the time here and that we want to get started.
So am I questioning or not?
Yes, you can have a quick.
Oh, quick one. That is a very quick one. No, I just noticed that about the loan being interest free. I know our plus 1%, minus 1% policy, and I also noticed on page 81 the line of credit for the Wisco, and I thought, yeah, does that 1% sort of come into that too, or is it not hard and fast?
Well, this loan was different because it was actually funded from the Better Off funding we received from previous three audit reform. So yeah, that was done deliberately, and we received the money for nothing. So we didn't need to secure a return out of it. So that's why it was structured that way.
And the Wisco, will be charging them.
Oh yeah, that's different because that is money that we've actually we'll need to make sure we haven't borrowed money to provide that loan, whereas we do need to borrow money to provide a loan to the Wisco, so we need to recoup that interest cost.
Happy to move the acceptance of this report.
Thank you very much. I have a seconder. Robbie, all in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Rightio. Now.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
No, you're right. So are we in open or PE? Do we need to be in?
We're still in open.
Okay.
You can see it's components of in the open meeting. So these page 13 plus the report to management. That is an open meeting, and then there is page 20 onwards.
Yep.
Plus an amended with an engagement letter that has been passed through, and then we do have the audit proposal letter with some PE. So I suppose.
So welcome. So apologies. Oh, sorry, you just turned into a hedgehog for a moment.
Oh, my bad, sorry.
Hi, welcome.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. As you can see, we're running a little, well, trying to run on time. We're pretty close. So welcome. Do you know, have you met the members of the committee? The whole committee? I'm not sure. I'm just wondering if we might get people to just.
Well, Chantal might not have either.
Yeah. So maybe we whip round and do a quick introduction. So I'm Fiona, I think we've met. I'm the chair.
Tom, Westward, Hammer Springs.
Steve, Southwood, Embley.
Hi, Chantal and Gina and Laura, Mary.
Robbie Broughton, Southwood councillor.
Vince Daly, Eastwood.
Graham McGlynn, independent member.
And Hamish and myself, and we've got Cheryl and Joe sitting in coming in online.
Thank you.
Governance.
I think I have met everyone previously. So Chantal Ganetsky, so the appointed auditor for 2025.
Hi, I'm Jenna. So I'm your appointed auditor for 2026 onwards.
Okay, I suppose, Madam Chair, if we start with page 13, which is the report to management from last year's annual report, which primarily is what Chantal and has come in to discuss, and if you do hand it over to you, Chantal.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think I did sort of provide an explanation as to how the reporting would happen this year. So effectively we're issuing 2 reports, and you would have got the report to council, which came with your audit opinion last year, which basically provided a summary of the audit, what focus areas we were doing and the outcomes that were linked to that. And then what we're doing is we're doing a separate report to management where we have findings that are not significant findings. So any significant findings we would communicate through that report to council in any event. And what we've also started doing is including a summary of the prior year findings, whether they've been addressed or not over that period. So this is the report to management, which includes 4 new, all of them are assessed as medium priority. They focused on where we found sort of potential control deficiencies within the processes through our audit. They included the prompt termination processing. We recommended that management review and strengthen processes around updating employee termination dates on the payroll system. We closed a couple of old recommendations around sensitive expenditure policy, but updated for a new recommendation around sensitive expenditure policy, where we identified some potential deficiencies in that process. Accrual process of property, plant and equipment. All of these didn't result in any material issues for the year, but these are improvements that can be made within the control environment. I'm happy to take any questions with regards to.
Wonderful. Mary?
No, I think it kind of makes sense to me.
Yep.
Below it was a bit, you broke up a wee bit, Chantel, so I didn't hear it all, but it's all written.
Apologies.
No, it's not your fault, but that's fine. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So do we want to move that this information is accepted?
Yeah, I suppose that's appropriate, and as obviously, any of those outstanding recommendations, particularly new ones, have been added to our our action plan, and recorded on every committee meeting from there on.
Yeah. So I'm happy to move the information received, second, and Steve, all in favour? Right, thank you. Right.
Okay, so page 20 is the engagement meter as well as the audit plan. Now, what was sent through last night, there was an update to the engagement letter. Possibly work through with Jenna, so I'll apologies and forward to you, Jenna. I want to just step through, I suppose, the engagement letter first and foremost, and then we can look at.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. So this engagement letter is a 3-year agreement. It basically sets out the respective responsibilities for ourselves. The terms do follow the Auditor General's auditing standards, and it's pretty consistent with previous letters. However, it had only just really come to light yesterday that there is a slight amendment to this letter, which this is what Jason's referring to. So it's an extra additional paragraph. It's on page 6 of the updated engagement letter. So it's just to now include that the paragraph is headed use of cloud-based technologies in our audits. So it's aligned with the new a revised professional and ethical standard that came into effect last year. So it is essentially just talking about third-party service providers. So I'm happy to take any questions over that.
Did I receive that? Did that come through last night?
That came through last night, and it's sitting as part of the actually the PE stuff that shared.
right.
So that was completely my fault. It was so the second yellow handout.
Right, okay.
Towards the end of that will, well,
Yeah, okay, now I'm with you. Yep.
that
Yeah,
is
so
it.
the letter it's similar to what you would have seen in previous years. There's just an additional paragraph that we've added in this year.
Madam Chair, I should probably confess to this.
Yes.
One of my other ones, I raised the fact and the audit regulator came out and me. So I'm totally guilty as charged, Your Honour.
Okay.
Yes, I spoke to some of our the other AAs and other officers. So I thought before you signed this, I might as well put this paragraph in.
So is everybody getting the same new paragraph about the cloud-based technology? So it's a standard letter across all, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's a standard paragraph that's being added into those engagements that aren't previously signed.
Yeah, if I can give a bit of background for a moment, wearing my regulator hat. The Institute last year introduced some new requirements about disclosing the location of data because it's becoming an increasingly sensitive topic, and for the council to know, or clients generally, because it doesn't just apply to councils, applies to all engagements that a chartered accounting provider does. It's important to know where your data is because of the risks that flow with your data being stored in other jurisdictions. And in this case, Microsoft Azure in Canada. We've got Microsoft Azure in Australia, and we're using Copilot and Caseware, which is AWS in Australia. So, that's just important that it's down there. It flows through if there's ever litigation, the ability of courts to be able to demand access, discovery, all sorts of things, as well as the risks associated with having information stored in the cloud. So yes, I'm guilty. I raised it in another council or two, and it's boomerang through very rapidly.
So just through the chair, what does that mean for you, Jenna, when you're looking at, meeting the audit requirements as far as that goes, that paragraph goes for us? What does that mean?
Yeah, so it doesn't actually change anything. It doesn't change our audit approach or anything that we will now do differently due to having this paragraph. So we were already using Microsoft Office, and we have very limited use of Copilot, but it's just really putting it in front of you just to let you know that some of the stuff is cloud-based and it is offshore.
Okay, rightio, now I understand that better.
Yeah, so the audit approach, it will carry on as it would have.
Yeah, thank you.
Through the chair. So, Jenna, how does that relate to
and the privacy, just to have privacy perspective, the privacy items included within the audited and what information we would share if required.
Yeah, you cut in and out a wee bit there, Chantal, so
Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my connection.
Sometimes it helps if you turn your video off. That might.
There we go. The anonymous name in the background. Can you hear me? Can you hear me better now?
yes?
Okay.
Yes.
What I was saying is that also in terms of approach, it also doesn't change any of the legal privacy arrangements we have as your auditors, and that are contained in the Public Audit Act.
Excellent. So we have confidence, which leads into the point that I was trying to raise. We have confidence that the privacy implications surrounding client data, which is New Zealand based, which is held in the cloud, meets all of our privacy expectations, all of our privacy objectives. We're well covered from a New Zealand legislative point of view. Canada are equal to or better than, etc., etc. We can have confidence in that.
That is all checked as part of before any software that we use within the office is considered. That's all considered. Privacy of information is obviously imperative for us.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you.
Certainly from the introduction of the audit dashboard for Audit New Zealand, which was a few years ago now, it's just made life for us a lot easier, being able to share information and have one place where it sits rather than. I don't want to sound demeaning of the auditors having 3 different auditors coming in asking for the same information, which has happened before.
So, are there any other questions on this? Clarifications? No?
Yeah, I suppose the process that we're comfortable with that. I mean, we know we are audited by Audit New for the next 3 years. That we do get the mayor to sign that audit letter, the updated engagement letter as one of the recommendations. We could perhaps deal with that and then move on to the audit plan.
Yeah. All good?
Yeah,
I'm happy. Whether I'm allowed to move it or not.
I'm happy to
Someone else
that
better.
direction.
Thank
It's
you.
been my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see. All those in favour?
Aye.
And the information provided in the audit plan is noted. Have you?
Oh, well, yeah,
We'll
go through that.
we go through,
We'll go.
as a separate item and the 1, 2,
That's this.
more leak talk about that.
Yes.
So the audit plan itself is on page 38. Through to page 62, and I've just done a quick précis of that on page 21, just particularly around the special areas of focus moving forward with this annual report. That it's focus on the revaluation of plant, property, and equipment. Now, it is a discussion item. We do have. We're in the year that we would normally revalue land and buildings, and these are, we do got 3 key classes of assets. We've got roading assets, we've got 3 rivers assets, and land and buildings. This year was going to be is land and buildings, or scheduled land and buildings, but there is the intention to do 3 waters as well, and the reason for doing that is to make sure that we've got an accurate valuation of our 3 waters assets if we transfer those to the Wisco, because that sets the upsets the council shareholding in the Wisco. And we don't necessarily need to do one for roading this time round, but we will do some reviews, price movements, and if the Iran US Israel war carries on and affects fuel prices, that may have a bearing in 2 or 3 months' time. But we'll keep a watching brief on that. I know I've discussed with Laura about whether we are committed to the 3 waters valuation, because we need to do that. The effects of potential valuation in the land and buildings won't be as material as it will be for 3 waters. And we'll do it as a school of thought that we don't do a land and buildings valuation this time around. Now, there's a bit there I perhaps need to discuss with our insurers, because what we do as part of the 3 yearly revaluation of their land and buildings is get a new insurance value, new replacement cost value for our insurers, to make sure that we try and keep the insurance value of their buildings relatively current. They do suggest we do it every 2 years, and I say, no, that costs money. I'll do it every 3 years, and piggybacking off the piece of work we need to do for the annual report in that year. So that's one component. The top of page 21 of the plan, they've got, and I think I mentioned this earlier as well, we did have a high level of work in progress in 3 waters at the end of 2025. And we just need to ensure that we've got appropriate processes to make sure that completed work is appropriately capitalised and recognised at that point. Obviously, with the three waters, with the creation of the WISCO, there's going to be quite a lot of focus on how the proposed accounting and reporting requirements as we transfer assets and debt to the WISCO. And then this year will be our first year of utilising our Datascape system for an annual report, which does will be some things we need to deal with there, and it's purely because labelling or the type of reports that come out of Datascape are different to the types of reports that used to come out of Magic. So, and it's just making sure that we've got as much consistency as we can.
Jason, going forward, who audits the water company? The same auditors?
Yeah, well, it is a public benefit entity, will need to be audited by the Auditor General, but they will appoint an auditor there. We have had discussions with Audit New Zealand because it makes sense. Jenna and Laura, both director and audit manager for both ourselves and Kaikoura. So yeah, there is that synergy there anyway. So it would make sense that Audit New Zealand would be the auditor moving forward. But we are just looking out for a very limited annual report for the WISCO because it hasn't been formed yet. But will be formed and we'll have a balance date of the 30th of June 2026.
And
Yes, so maybe
Yes.
you go, Jenna.
I was just going to say that I did actually speak to yesterday the auditor of the appointments just to see where they were at with this stage. So they are hoping in the next couple of weeks to be able to finalise this appointment. It is looking like it would be us, but they will formalise that. And originally they were actually waiting until the entity had actually been stood up, but I informed them yesterday the progress of where it's actually at. So they are looking at speeding that progress up now. So hopefully in a few weeks, by the end of March, start of April, it should be finalised.
Sorry, and I was just going to ask on page 43 of the report that was around the audit response to local water done well. It's, I think where it talks about we're waiting to hear from the Office of the Auditor General to provide guidance on accounting implications. That's exactly what we've just been talking about. That's what we're talking about there, or is that about whether they require an audit?
No, they will require an audit.
They will.
Sorry, Jenna.
Yeah, sorry. They will require, the WISCO will require an audit. On page 43, that's more talking about the accounting treatment. So how Hurunui Council actually account for the interest in this entity, in the WISCO entity itself. So the DIA have published guidance, but I do strongly recommend that you do obtain your own independent professional advice as well. I will share any accounting guidance that we get from the OAG as well. Unfortunately, that isn't finalised yet, but it is a complicated and complex area. And then we'll also need to take a financial reporting lens. So although you've got your founding documents drafted, so your shareholder agreement and your constitution, we then need to take a financial reporting lens as to how you actually treat this entity.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably is worth noting that at this stage, we aren't actually involved in the water services strategy either. So that currently doesn't need to be audited by the Auditor General.
So through the chair, there'll be another charge, really, another cost to this water to the consumer, won't it? Because we're going to have an audit here, and then there's going to be an audit of the new water company, where before it was all done in this one audit. So actually it's going to put more cost onto the consumer of the water company.
Madam Chair.
Would
it's
there be
no-
any idea
sorry.
of what that cost would be?
No, and yeah, I'd imagine for the first year it'd be relatively limited, given that there'll only be a small handful of transactions that because the formal date of the transfer is going to be the 1st of July, so the company won't actually own any assets, any particular asset or any Three Waters assets at the end of June when the balance comes. So it should be quite straightforward. But there will, I think Jen's talking about the how we do account for the transfer of the assets, transfer of the debt, the resulting shareholding. The council will hold. I mean, I've got what looks from a practical point of view, but quite often practicality and accounting standards don't quite mix. So we just got to make sure that they will line up.
Graham?
I was going to say that all the governance costs and administration costs of the WISCO, there will be a duplication of costs to some extent, to be determined how much by sharing services, but I've got a bunch of directors that will have to be paid. So they'll have to have an audit. But the important thing this year is to get the policy on accounting for the WISCO right, even though the numbers are probably going to be zero, because that then sets the policy up for next year. And so we're race ready to go. So we're not we're going to have to be ready, fire and aim on this.
Yeah.
And so we do have to address the shareholdings, the effective control provisions and everything else under the accounting standards at this point, even though the numbers will probably be just about zero in them, because that sets us up for next year.
I can give you the Tom and these things.
This was anything else
No,
to Graham's comment.
I thought you were asking a question.
No, I know, I wanted to know, just in case there was a follow-up to.
Hello.
I noticed on page 21 that we've got the risk of management overriding control. So there is an inherent risk of fraud. And that is highlighted as a focus, a special area of focus. On page 15, internal bribery and corruption is only rated as a medium risk, and it feels like this is an important risk. We've got it in one area as just medium, but in this item, we've got it down as a special focus. And I wondered if there was a comment on that.
I don't have a specific comment.
I could again, putting on my, and guys come to my rescue if you have a different view, but auditing standards require that the risk of management override is regarded as a significant risk, just automatically. There's not really any judgment in it, and as opposed to looking at your internal controls and saying, look, we've got reasonably good separation. So it's more a standard compliance requirement is that the auditors have to be aware of the risk of management override and do appropriate responses.
But earlier on, we say that bribery and corruption is only a medium risk.
Bribery and corruption is different to management override. So bribery and corruption is a fraud aspect of people taking bribes to do it. Management override is succinctly different to that. But Jenna, you might
Yes, I think you've explained it well. And then that medium risk is in terms of any control findings as well, whereas the risk of management override is a standard significant risk with the accounting standards. So here we will look at, for example, manual journals. Is there the right approval system? Are they independently reviewed? And any key areas of estimates and judgments. So not just focused on bribery and corruption.
So if I may, estimates and judgments we'll be looking for is there risk of bias. Have we got a an agenda sitting in behind that says we want a low one, but like the old story about the valuer. You know, I wanted a high one for the bank so we could borrow more. I want a low one for the matrimonial so the missus didn't get too much.
Or mister. It's a good explanation. Do you feel happier with
Yes,
it?
yeah, thank you, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Good
Thank you.
explanation.
Through the chair, just a point of clarification for me. The audit plan is still shown in draft format. Is it moving from draft to final on signing by the mayor, or when does it shift to final?
No,
Yeah, so we've issued that in draft just for the opportunity of anyone in the committee here. If there's anything else that you think we should include or different areas of audit focus. So if I mean, now I guess is your chance to suggest any changes or different areas of focus, or if there's anything else you think that we should be focusing on. And then after this, we can issue it in final. So there's no need for any signing of this.
Thank you. That clarifies that. Thank you.
so we're happy with what's in there as matters of focus.
The rest of the plan talks about materiality, the overall materiality proposed of 90 million, specific materiality 20 million, timetable, and there's a raft of various states to do interim work, this one in a week, which fills my team up with a little bit of dread, just because it's a new system and there are new processes involved. The reporting protocols, and then in the team that's involved, and Jenna has not been involved with her previously, but Laura has been our manager for. This is at least a third audit, maybe fourth, and Vicky Lee, who's the audit supervisor, has this is at least her third audit involved with us. So it's certainly the direct liaison. We've got a level of consistency which makes that job a little easier, but there'll be new junior staff on top.
Madam Chair, if I may, through you, the overall materiality, if I interpret the plan right, and I'll put aside my differences between the approach you guys take and what I believe the auditing standards says, but it's really to do with evaluation of fixed assets and revaluation reserves is the 90 million. Everything else is sort of 2 million is the number that would be enough to make a user potentially take a different view on the financial information presented, which is the ultimate definition of materiality. Is material if it'll cause a user to make a different economic decision. And thus the 90 million shouldn't be thought about in terms of stuff that impacts profit and loss statements and those sorts of things. Otherwise they wouldn't probably do a lot of work because their rates are less than 90 million. So that's essentially why there's the two numbers. So it's really the 90s reserved for valuation of fixed assets and our infrastructural assets. Okay. And what's significant they consider to be significant.
We might just think all sorts of things are significant that aren't in this framework. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so I suppose the recommendation was there that we note the audit plan and the information in the audit plan is noted, but yeah, if there was anything that you wanted to raise, and possibly anything that you wanted to raise, one of the auditors to be aware of without the management around the table, you could raise that in public excluded section.
Yeah, I mean, just the timeline in the back, we're always super conscious of the timeline and the pressure to achieve the timelines expected. I mean, I know we've got a drop dead timeline, but are we likely to be able to meet these targets, I guess is my question.
I certainly hope so. I haven't given it a thought.
No.
Because there's a few other things on the.
Yeah, I know.
at the minute.
I guess hence my question, you know, that this is a, you know, inevitably puts pressure on our small system, and that is something that we talked with Laura and Jenna and Chantel when Fiona and I met the other week, that, you know, it is a timeline that is kind of set in stone, but not, you know, but it's a pressure that comes on our staff and our entire council really to achieve the deadline. So I guess it was an awareness raising factor as much as anything. Yeah.
And I think most of the balance sheet is relatively simple. For want of a better term, the difficulty with council stuff is the fixed assets, and we are specifically getting additional resources to assist us with that. Because we are relatively stretched as a team anyway, and fixed assets, moving it from Magic to Datascape is just a process we have not had time to do. So you need somebody to dedicate their time to do that, and confident we'll get somebody that can manage that for us.
Yeah. So someone is being staffed, employed, contracted to perform that duty to help us get that timeline.
Specifically a fixed term contract to achieve that.
So I think that's good for everybody to know, because, you know, we know that the pressure points do come on, and we're conscious of achieving our audit requirements, because we understand that we need to do that, and we need to do that well, but we need to also take care of our staff and how we manage those pressure points as well. So
and being very, very conscious that we have missed reporting deadlines a few times over the two earthquakes.
Thank you.
I think it's worth noting that when we did have a conversation, there was a real understanding from the auditor side on that situation here, and finding ways to work through it in bite-sized bits, I guess. And I think they've formed a good teamwork in the past, and so it's a two-way street, isn't it? And I really appreciated your acknowledging the pressure on the team here, and trying to find ways to make it easier, I guess, while still achieving what we need to do. So I think that was great. Thank you. Yeah.
So the next component of for what he was on sits in PE. So
do you want to move that the information is noted, or?
Thank you. Thank you. All in favour?
Right.
Right. Having had a I haven't moved it come out at all. So do I have someone, having read the front, the measures on the front page, that's happy to move us into PE? Seconder, Mari, all in favour?
Right.
Thank you.
We'll just give a moment.
Give me a moment.
Received, noted.
Madam Chair, I might just have to take my leave of absence, as I'm meant to be chairing something else in town at 5 o'clock. So
Thank you very much for your input today. Good luck.
Drive safely.
I'll be making a phone call on the way to get someone else to start.
Oh, yes, 'cause it's 4 o'clock. Depends on where you're going.
Got the right way. Fortunately, into town should be easier.
Yes, not as bad.
Apologies for that, everyone.
No, our apologies. You're not going yet. Good, there we go. Then, Rob.
Well, only the obvious one is the significant decline in reporting. If it's, do we know where and why? And
No, we're assessing it at the moment, but it's really difficult, the reporting thing. It could be that we had people who were more enthusiastic about reporting and when it was newer and slowly over time.
Yeah.
It could be that there's just less stuff to report because we're doing a better job. It's very hard to understand. We tend to, or we believe that we've got an inordinate amount of compared with the differences and the observations. So if people are less inclined to report near misses, and if we're actually having less incidents, we'd still be expecting to have near misses and so forth, and we're not seeing, we're seeing them decline as well. So yeah, we're not sure why, but we are looking at it.
Any other questions come to people's minds from there? I'd just make the comment, I guess, that as we have started this process, we start been going a little longer now, you can start to see the pattern, which is what we talked about in some of the areas. So I think by way of putting together a report that gives us an eye of patterns and trends, that this has been a useful way to address that. On that basis, I move that the information be received. All in favour? Be the meeting closed. Fly birdies fly.